We began our lecture series on the U.S. Constitution by talking about our first plan of government, the Articles of Confederation, which was ratified in 1781, and why it did not work very well. The first thing you should understand is the definition of the word confederation. A confederation is an organization that consists of a number of parties or groups, in our case states, combined in an alliance or a league. And that is what the United States were under the Articles, a group of allied, independent states. The problem was that the alliance between them was not very strong. Because each of the 13 states was very reluctant to give away any of its sovereignty or independence, very little authority was given to the central or federal government. One reason they were reluctant to do so was the fear that the new federal government would be just as oppressive as King George was. After the Revolutionary War ended in 1783, the new nation faced many problems, and the federal government as constituted under the Articles was not sufficient enough to deal with them, which is why I included a picture of a scale in case you were wondering. You know, it's a metaphor. The problems facing the country outweighed the ability of the government to deal with them. The new nation faced foreign threats, as Spanish and British troops still occupied parts of the West. There was also the question of westward expansion and adding new states. Who would manage that process? Many states and the federal government were in a lot of debt as a result of the war. In short, each state was looking out for their own interests and not really focusing on the best interests of the nation as a whole. It seemed that the young nation was in a period of crisis, which was made abundantly clear when domestic disturbances, most notably an uprising in Massachusetts led by a farmer named Daniel Shays, broke out in 1786. Because the Articles created such a weak central government, there seemed to be no solution to these problems. For one thing, there was no executive or judicial branches. This meant that the federal government had no mechanism to enforce any laws that it did pass. The federal government did not have the power to compel states to pay taxes to the nation. The federal government had no power to regulate trade, and that also meant that each state could coin its own money. Imagine a situation today in which we operated with 50 different systems of currency. Any laws were difficult to pass since they required a 2/3 majority, which was very difficult to get. You might be asking, why didn't they just change the Articles? The problem with that was that any amendments to the Articles required unanimous consent. And if you think a 2/3 majority is difficult to obtain, unanimous consent is practically impossible. We should note one significant achievement of the Articles of Confederation, and that was the passage of the Northwest Ordinance. This law outlined a method for the creation of new states in the Northwest Territory, which at the time was located near the Great Lakes region. This law stated that slavery was to be banned in those states. The controversy over the issue of slavery was not going to go away just yet. To summarize the main idea, the Articles of Confederation created a very weak central or federal government that was not able to deal effectively with the nation's problems. By 1787, many national leaders saw the need to make a change. Cue the Constitutional Convention.